Right,
good. Groundhog Day is one of Lee's favorite films.
Yeah, there you go, Groundhog Day. Yeah, there's also that other one. I forget what it's called, but we don't repeat ourselves. We don't go round and round in circles. We definitely look to challenge the paradigms and make things different. So good morning to those of you in the USA. Good afternoon to those of you in the UK and in SA. So we've got lots of A's. Just the UK that hasn't got an A, but it sounds like an A.
What was that third place?
The third place,
Yeah.
SA, which is South Africa.
Oh, that's what I didn't know about. Okay.
Yeah. So Lee and I are from South Africa, in the Johannesburg area, and yeah, so we're from all over the globe. So
UK has got an A. We got a AAA rating.
I thought it was just AA, where all of you went in the evenings to go and practice your 12 steps. Yeah, there we go. So, right. So we're talking about the future, all about the future today. So I think, Lee, have I got that one right? Or was that a future topic? No, it's today's topic. Today's topic is the future. All right. So what are your feelings? What are your feelings about the future and what the future might bring us? And I think it's an interesting topic coming out of the last 12 months that we've just come out of. Well, are we out of them? I'm not sure. We'll have to see what the future holds. So, BJ, the future, is it a topic that's on your mind?
How far into the future?
There's I am the eternal optimist. Although I am human and I have my days where some days I think nothing's ever going to be better. But I really am, for the most part, an eternal optimist. In reference to what we've been experiencing over this last year, I think there's a lot to be hopeful for. We're seeing the tides turn. We're seeing some of the numbers lower, except here in the States, in the news last evening, there's now about 10 states that have suddenly seen an increase in a number of COVID cases. Hospitals are now becoming inundated again, and we are now on our 5th strain. So the word is that keep it up, keep what we're doing, keep the mask covered, social distance, do your due diligence, use your common sense. And if everybody would just jump on that and just do it, not because it's inconvenient for you, but you're doing it not for you, but for everybody else. People aren't comprehending that. So I imagine, and again, I'm hopeful that with all the injections that are being given now, I do see a turn. Wouldn't it be nice if everybody would do what they're supposed to do and we could get over this sooner than later, but again, you're dealing with human nature and human behavior, and that just isn't going to happen. You're going to have those silly people. As far as the economy goes, again, I think that depends on where you live, but the economy is coming up here in the States. In fact, a report again last night said that our unemployment rate, even though it is high for the nation, it is there are more jobs available now for people who have been unemployed recently or laid off or made totally redundant. So I think and there are lessons that will be in business that will change because of what we've had to go through. And I actually am kind of hopeful about that as well. I'm excited about the future for that, because I did think business needed to have a change. Now, whether that'll be a good change in the future or not, time will tell. I don't have a crystal ball. I wished I could predict the future. I could make a lot of money if I could do that, right? And as far as personally goes, I have never been more excited about the future, especially right here in YP. Um, things are the inside stuff that I can't share. Um, things are rapidly turning over, and the future, for a while I was kind of down in the dumps and down in the mouth because I couldn't get the premise of what your partnerships and networking is across to the people here in the States. And now all of a sudden, it's taken not 10 months, 9 months. And now all of a sudden, people are listening, people are paying attention, and people are understanding what it is that I've been trying to get across. So the future for YP is exciting, and I'm really pumped about that. So I think it just depends on your perspective and where you are in life and what it is that you are momentarily going through. I think Lee can agree that whatever our future looks like depends on what we're going through at the moment, and it depends on the struggles that we're having, and it depends on our mindset and our overall mental attitude about making changes to our future. So I like future. I like the possibility of what can happen in all aspects of life. That took 10 minutes to answer your question.
Thanks, BJ. Yeah, no, great. So I think it's always good to be positive. So David, you sort of asked the question, how far in the future? Well, yeah, I think it's up to you how far you want to take it. So over to you for your thoughts.
Okay. Well, I think there's plenty of room for both optimism and pessimism here. If you look long term, by long term, I mean 50 to 100, 200 years in the future, especially 100 to 200 years in the future, I think climate change is already a bigger problem than people have been realizing. And we're really going to feel the effects of that in the next 50 to 100 years with sea level rise and ice melt of the glaciers. The glaciers in the Alps, except at the highest elevations over, I don't know, 3,500, 4,000 meters, are literally melting away. And in southeast France, there's a place called the Mer de Glace, or the Sea of Ice, that used to come way down and it was hundreds of meters thick, and now it's literally just melting down. And the ice cap in Greenland, from what I have heard, I've obviously never been there, but that's melting at a pretty rapid clip as well. Now there's a chance that we can alter the future by what we do today, but from what I've seen from many Americans and many other countries, I'm less optimistic there. There's plenty of optimism, I think, here in the United States regarding COVID, with a very effective vaccine rollout, I'd say. Although there's a certain segment of our population that just doesn't believe in science and doesn't want to take the vaccine. And then in Brazil, their whole health system is falling apart because their president has pretty much not done anything. And there's parts of the world where they just can't afford or don't have access yet to the vaccine. So people in America who don't get vaccinated are really never going to be safe. As for my own personal future, I hope it's bright. Sometimes I wonder. I think the best part of my life was before 40 years old, and then I've had more trouble since. I wish I could travel to Europe and such, We haven't been able to recently, but even when we are able to, I don't have the money for that anymore. Life was a lot cheaper when my parents were around, I'll say that much. I think those are my thoughts right now. Maybe I can bounce off somebody else later.
Oh, no problem. Thanks, David. Yeah, it is interesting how our perspectives do change over time. So, Kevin, your thoughts on the future? Is it so bright you got to wear shades, or?
Well, yeah. I mean, the future really is looking bright for me. I've got all sorts of things going on in the background, but we're looking to build my business up. Really, I've been using Zoom in my business for years and years, so it wasn't actually a new thing for me to get onto Zoom meetings. But I think that the way that Zoom has had such an impact on lives, it's definitely here to stay. It's going to become part of the new normal. I'm definitely in favour of it because it's so time efficient, it's so cost efficient, and although we will eventually get back to having face-to-face networking meetings, there'll be a balance between face-to-face and digital meetings. So I'm really in favour of that. I'm less convinced that they'll. Again, because going back to what was on an earlier conversation from today, I think that events things will eventually get back, but I'm not convinced that they'll go back to the extent to which they were previously. Things like rock concerts and weddings and other things like that, they'll definitely still take place, but maybe they'll be down reduced numbers, certainly in the first instance, or that kind of thing. But I'm pretty optimistic about the way that things are going from my point of view.
Right, thanks, Kevin. Always good to hear that people are positive and looking forward to the future. So, Frank, how's your future looking for you?
Well, I didn't really know the topic for today, but I think BJ stole the one word that came to mind when I heard the topic as soon as I came on, and that is excitement. I am a total optimist. Doesn't say I don't have my minutes or hours, I wouldn't say days, of downness and concern about the future, but I'm a total optimist. I am excited about the future. Now, there's going to be difficult times ahead, there's no doubt about that, absolutely. But, human beings over the last 12 months, I think, have banded together in general, in the most. There's always some people that don't, but banded together to realize that we are in control of our personal futures and our world future. And if I think when I was 20, as I say, I'm 62, 63 next week, would you believe? But 62, when I was 20, I could not imagine what this world would be like. When I was 20, we were still watching black and white TV in my house. We still had a TV that you had to tune in like an old-fashioned radio that went past the station, and you had to go back a bit. That's just in my lifetime. It's just in the last 40, 50 years. And I don't worry about dying. It doesn't concern me. It concerns me for the people who I leave behind, but I don't worry about it. But I would love to be here in 50, 100 years' time, as David said, to see what the world is going to be like. And I'm not a doom and gloomer. I am not one of these people that say, well, it won't be here anymore or whatever. I think it'll be a fascinating place. I think it'll be so exciting. And I was on a call, just very, very quickly, I was on a call, a YP call earlier on today with somebody called Joe Dennison. I don't know if you know his name. You might recognize him because he always wears a Hawaiian shirt, a different Hawaiian shirt every day, and he's got a Mohican. And he just gave us a talk that was a 10-minute talk, which was out of this world. Totally positive. His main points, just in me finishing, is think like a child. You're excited as a child as anything. You've gone on a holiday, you jumped up and down, really excited about the world around you. There's only one of me, he reminded us, that we're totally unique from everybody who's been in the past and everybody who will be in the future and everybody who is right now. Fascinating for me. He reminded us to have fun. He reminded us to challenge ourselves daily. He reminded us to be excited about the future. And he reminded us to love each other more. I couldn't get enough of it. I could have listened to him for 10 hours, never mind 10 minutes. So to me, the future is exciting.
Excellent. I love that, Frank. So great. Yes, David.
I was just going to say that technology is increasing quite rapidly. We don't know what advances will solve the problems of the future that we don't even know about yet. It's really pretty amazing. I mean, what, 10 years ago, this Zoom meeting probably wouldn't be possible, right? And you can literally watch television programs from another country these days. And so I think that there's always hope, but you always also have to be realistic.
Yeah. That's the question. You know, what does realism do to hope? I wonder sometimes. So, Lee, your thoughts?
Yeah, I love Frank. Excited. So it's and I'm going to steal Trevor's line, and Trevor, you're just going to have to repeat me. It's the best. I'm a disciple, right? This is the best time to be alive. And I think, yeah, you see, I stole his line. You watch these historical programs, and I think of what women had to wear 100 years.
Oh boy. You seen the old pictures of women climbing mountains in these skirts that weighed like 40 pounds?
You know, corsets. And,
Crazy. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think people started, I mean, indoor plumbing. You know, these are things that we, and I know there's many people that still struggle with these things, but my hope is that, exactly as Frank is saying, that here we are, I'm meeting people from across the world. We're sharing thoughts and ideas that we never did before, and recognizing people as people and not as groups and in ideologies, but as real living people with stories. That means that my mind is being open constantly to possibilities of connections, and that my what my actions are actually impacting other people. And so I think from a personal point of view, I think from the possibilities and opportunities that we have, I think, and I think life does go on. And if we just bring it down to the basics, and I say that because my niece has just given birth to a little baby girl. She's a week old tomorrow. She'll be a week old tomorrow. She's 6 days old. She's this teeny little thing. That gives you hope, just as every new life gives you hope. And this is the first great-grandchild of my mom's. And she is 80 years old and young and vibrant and ready to keep and going and excited about this new life. So I think the future holds great possibilities. And I think it will be as tough emotionally and all of those things as the rest of life is. Life is not easy. Doesn't mean that life is going to be a breeze. I just think that there's just possibilities that's going to make the future a wonderful place to be.
Thanks, Lee. So, Ed, is your effect becoming fiction in your future? I think we had that discussion earlier today, but
yeah, for the youngsters on here like Frank, every single year of my life has been better than the one before. So the future is always bright. And I think, well, no, I'm not, but I could be the oldest person on here. I was feeling very hopeful about the future. And then Ivan told me about Elon Musk's plans to put a goat on Mars. And I suddenly thought, well, you know, rather than think how are we going to nourish ourselves on Mars, he's going to take the old paradigms to Mars with him. And I think that is the problem with humans. We can never run away from ourselves. But anyhow, I don't think we'll need to go to Mars, because I really do think that things are changing for the better, and that people are waking up to the fact that we need to work with nature, we need to look after nature, we need to tackle climate change. And it's not going to be wacky billionaires that do that. It's going to be normal people. And I use as my example beer, because you all know I love beer. And I've now discovered 2 carbon negative breweries, Brewdog, and Kevin will know this one, Toast. They're both carbon negative. And then there's a company called, there's a company called Jubel, who's also carbon negative. And they're all either going to be or will be B Corps. If you don't know what B Corps is, it's a certification for being ethical and sustainable. It started in America. That's why the corp bit comes in, because they call their companies corporations. But B Corp is a growing movement. It's a movement of cooperation between businesses, for large businesses and small businesses. And I think the change will come from the people, from small businesses. Let the billionaires waste their money on going to Mars or what it is they want to do. And we'll just get on, drink our beer, save the planet, and the future will be right. And I really do think we are going to see a change in how we relate to nature and how we relate to each other. And I think that's the one thing that's come out of the pandemic. People realize that people are important, place is important, green space is important, and just being in nature is important. So yeah, I'm really hopeful about the future. All I've got to do now is work on getting Castle Lager carbon negative, and my work is done.
Let me ask a question there, Edward, because, and this is like a devil's advocate question. I don't agree or disagree either way. I'm just asking a question here. I agree. I think a mindset change and a lot of purpose has changed in this past year, maybe even right before the pandemic. People were getting tired and weary of all the negative stuff in life. So because of the pandemic, I see a lot of people trying to be more positive and engaged for the future. But my question is, how long is it going to take? I mean, we've been dealing with climate change now for decades. So how long is it going to be before we actually take the initiative to get stronger about our convictions? And
we haven't been dealing with climate change at all until now. We've been making promises and not keeping them. But I think, you know, the great thing is, you know, America signing back up to the Paris Agreement, and people want to make a difference. They want to make a change. And I think Dave is quite right. You know, 50 years time, we will, if we don't do anything, start seeing the impacts of climate change. But small changes now will make a big difference. And actually the pandemic has made those changes already, because, you know, we haven't traveled as much. Zoom is going to make that change for us, because we won't be using our car as much.
Correct.
So and people are now sort of thinking, well, actually, I don't need to buy stuff all the time. I don't need the latest, you know, plastic trinket. I just need to hug my grandmother.
The greenhouse gases that were not put into the air because we all stayed home during the pandemic, that's a temporary savings. That's all going to come right back as soon as we get back online.
Well, we're not all going to go back to going in our office. We're going to go back maybe 2 or 3 days a week. So there will be, yeah, you're right. A lot of it will bounce back, but not as much as it did.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And again, stats and numbers, and even some of the conversations that are being held by some of the Fortune 500 companies are saying, in fact, there was just another article on yesterday that said in going forward and looking to the future of big business. They have been interviewing and talking with some of the workers that were doing remote work, and they're saying, and here's what the workers are saying: we like the idea of working from home. We like the idea of our own time. However, we miss the socialization. We miss the communication between friends. So big business is now thinking about going back maybe 2 days a week, no more than 3. That's kind of where their mindset is at the moment. Yes, as you said, Edward, it will bring back some of the stuff, but 2 days absence is a big change in the overall picture. 2 days less of anything is better when it comes to environment usage. So hopefully that will be a positive thing going forward. But we still, and the automobile traffic and all that puts that negative into our environment. I do think that is a positive that will come, because we will be using less and less of it. But that also brings now another question.
Yeah, let's hope it. So yes, Kevin, you wanted to add some thoughts in there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about what it's been like over in the US or even in South Africa, but certainly in the UK, people that are associated with the property industry, as I am, with the working from home, commercial property use is going to decrease because people do actually like to work from home, and therefore there are great opportunities for both downsizing of commercial properties and where they decide to get rid of those completely, they can actually fulfill a housing need by converting those commercial properties into residential accommodation at minimal cost, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
So I think working from home is definitely here to stay. So therefore, I'm not convinced it'll go back to how it was completely.
Great, thanks. So now we're going to go across to Trevor. So I just masked up just for him. So we'll over to you, Trevor.
All right. Yep. So I've got the builders on site there walking behind me, as you can see, every now and then. But listen, Lee, that is my line. This is the greatest time in the history of the world, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm a lot closer to 70 than most of the other guys in this forum. The other thing is you've only got yourself to blame, Ed, because when I'm trying to canoe down these rivers, they're full of blooming piddle and sewage, and it's got to be all the beer drinkers, as far as I'm concerned. So if we can cull the beer drinkers, that's going to save the planet, and I'm going to make certain that you know what, I'm going to get, what's her name, Mantu Shabalala and Samang. I'm going to send her across to the UK so she can close all the bottle stores and the pubs. And then you'll get to understand how we can save the planet. But listen, in all seriousness, I came in and just managed to switch on where I heard David turning around and saying, listen, the first 40 years of his life was great, but it's been tough since then, or something to that effect, David. You know what? I just think as we're getting older and older, that's the point of these forums for myself, is to actually start finding out now, the older and more experience we get, how do we make these new technologies enjoyable for ourselves in the last 100% of our years that we have left? And I love that. That was a saying that came through from Tom Hopkins, and BJ, I think, actually knew Tom Hopkins, or perhaps talked with him. But he used to talk of when he met people that were in their 70s, who turned around and said, but I'm old and I don't have to do all these sort of things. I'm going to die anyway. And he would turn around to them and say, well, you've got 100% of your life left. And I think that's one of the greatest attitudes that you can possibly have. And if I can just wind in a little bit here, I think right now, the type of formula that we're working on at Wisdoms, that life is about really 6 little modules and what you do with them: attitude, initiative, inspiration, leadership, basic business skills, and business mastery. And then you mix that onto a foundation of making a difference in the world. I think we're onto something here, and we might even change Ed's mind as well. Because really, Ed, as you were talking, I thought to myself, when you said, who the hell wants to go to Mars or whatever, what billionaire wants to, speak for yourself, Ed. I want to go off to Mars. I want to go, you know what, I want to go to the moon. I want to bump into an alien. In fact, I even want to bump into a ghost. So if any of you have got ghost stories or alien stories, please tell them to me, because for some reason, these people are avoiding me, and I'm the most likable guy on this planet.
You're on a different planet already, Trevor.
Yeah, you are, but
yeah.
that's why we love you. You know what? You reminded me of something, Trevor. I was a nurse for 25 years, and I worked strictly only in long-term care. And we used to have, as a exercise, a mental exercise, once a week, we used to have a group session called Remembering. And these were just subjects similar to what we do here in this forum. It was just bringing up a question and asking them to try and dig deep into their recesses and try and recall some of the memories. There was this one amazing lady who never spoke, hardly ever. She just chose to remain in the background, kind of a wallflower. And I will never, ever, ever forget on the day we were asking about some of the changes that she has seen. And I believe she was in her 80th decade or 8th decade. So she just piped up out of the blue and said, I like where I am now. Yes, I'm in a position where I don't live in my own home and I am dependent on others to care for me. However, when I stop and think about it, I don't have to clean house. I don't have to take care of kids or wash diapers. I don't have to go grocery shopping. I don't have to do this or that and the other. She says, I actually love where I'm at right now. And I thought, oh my gosh, I love that. So she was taking, using that remembrance and saying, that was a hard life. I've got it easy now, even though my personal situation, my medical situation is somewhat scary. But at the same time, that last chapter of her life, she was going to enjoy what she didn't have to do in the first chapters of her life. So I just thought that was a marvelous analogy that she made. Most people, when we get later in life, complain about our aches and pains and our joints and the many doctor visits and all the tests and all the inconveniences we have to go through as we get old. She was relishing it, and I loved that.
Great, thanks, BJ. Yeah, it's always inspirational when you see someone with a completely different perspective on life, isn't it? And
yeah,
you know, one of the things that Trevor and I have sort of challenged each other with over the last number of years is to say, you know, so you've had your first 40 or so years of your career. Now imagine yourself starting again at the age of 20, but with all the knowledge and experience that you've gained over the last 40 years. What would you do differently?
Well, you know what? I'm a prime example of that. And I'm going to take, if you don't mind, you know my story, you know my background. And it was at 36 or 38 that my whole world changed, and it changed for the good. I could have moped and moaned and groaned and complained life wasn't fair, but I chose to look into a new direction. And because of that, my whole life has changed. And success has happened, and I've met some of the most amazing people. I'm very proud to call not only this amazing group my friends, but I've got people in just about every country of the world that I can call my friend. That wouldn't have happened 30 some odd years ago, but it was because I chose not to stay there. So It's so possible. The future is changeable in a moment. You can
What did you
actually,
change 30 some odd years ago?
I'm sorry?
What specific change did you make 30 some odd years ago that changed everything for you?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but you and I will talk about that. I come from a
I'm
very,
actually going to put a pause there because BJ, I'm wondering whether we don't take the opportunity next Wisdom's Chats for you to share your story with us, because we've got glimpses into it because you spoke at at our Wisdom's Global Summit. But other people who hear on this, like David is saying, is like we're interested and we're curious. So and we've asked Frank to share his story in the UK Wisdom's Chat next week. So it seems appropriate to ask you to share your story with us.
I'd be happy to. Yes.
Wisdom's Chat.
I'd be happy to. If you don't mind listening, some of you don't mind listening to it again.
Not at all, BJ, not at all. It's an amazing story.
I think we'll manage. I think we'll manage.
Yeah. But I am...
David, you just have to put the pause on for the moment for a week.
Okay.
And then we'll come back to it.
We'll come back next week.
Yeah,
I have an unrelated question I wanted to ask. Someone from the UK, how big is London, England, and does it have the same traffic jams as places like Paris, France, and New York in the US?
I'm not sure how big it is, but yes to the traffic jams. Although it's a little bit better than it was because we've got the not traffic free zones, but you've got to pay to go in there.
Yeah, it's congestion charge. Yeah,
that's the chap. Yeah.
Is the population like over 1 million?
It's 8 million plus, I think, these days.
How many?
8 million plus.
Holy mackerel! That's like New York City size.
Yeah, it's not small.
And the strange thing is we only really have one big city in the UK. It dominates because the others are much smaller in comparison, and I think that's the problem.
Well, and the cost of living is comparable as well, David. I mean, the bigger you are, the more demand there is, so the prices go up.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, so the cost of living in London is extremely expensive. So
well, it depends on some things because transport is dirt cheap in London, really is dirt cheap. Yeah, but other things are more expensive. Property is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Well, that's a totally different direction that we've gone off on there. But before we go, and I know Trevor's
another half hour. Just a half hour.
Yeah. So I've decided I'm going to start a little crowdfunding exercise. So we're going to buy Trevor a ticket to Mars. Unfortunately, it's a one-way ticket, so we don't expect to see him back in a hurry. And we'll send a couple of goats with him. But
well, we can get Elon Musk to maybe connect with Trevor and see if Elon would be interested in having Trevor be a test case.
A guinea pig.
Yeah, a guinea pig. The first senior.
Well, they've already got some goats, so another old goat will just fit right in. So I mean, that's fine. All right. Okay. I think on that note, seeing we're leaving these things on a high, we're going to really look forward to BJ's little story next week, which I'm sure is going to enthrall us all. And so, BJ, thanks so much for stepping up to the plate and look to the future for the next week. And we look forward to hearing your story. And hope everyone will join us then. Other than that, have a great week further, folks. And we'll chat soon. Cheers now.
All right.
Bye.
See you all later. Come to the